All right. Welcome back to BSing Sports Week 7 preview for the NFL. Thanks for joining us. For those of you who are here, we're going to obviously it's a little bit different because we're doing this at 11:30 a.m. on Sunday rather than Saturday night like we have been in the past. Um, but what we're going to do is we're just going to do predictions for this week, make it a quick show. Hopefully you guys are watching and following along, and we'll see how it goes. Ryan, how you doing this week, buddy?
I'm hanging in there. I'm a little tired, but hanging in there. Can't really complain. Ready to watch some football before I go to work today.
Yeah, yeah. For those of you who don't know, Ryan has a weird work schedule. All right, so I guess we'll just kick it right on off. Obviously, there was apologies the Thursday night game that happened. The Broncos and the Browns. Browns are really dinged up right now, and they still managed to pull out a victory, 17-14 over the Broncos. You had a couple of comments on that last night. Why don't you go into that a little bit?
Yeah. So first off, I'm surprised that happened. Very surprised. I figured with arguably the three biggest pieces out of the Browns offense and Baker Mayfield, Nick Chubb, and Kareem Hunt sitting this one out. I thought for sure they would be playing from behind most, if not all, the game. Denver looked good early in the season, so this was potential rebound for them. All the cards potentially aligned to Denver winning this game. However, it just did not go that way. And from the opening drive, really, Cleveland punched Denver in the mouth, and they had no answer for it. D'Ernest Johnson ended up with like 140 yards on the ground. It was, he had a fantastic performance, and Case Keenum did just enough to win the football game, and that's all you needed him to do.
Yeah, with Baker Mayfield being out and the torn labrum in his non-throwing shoulder and the broken bone in his non-throwing shoulder, there are still rumors that he's going to come back. How do you feel about Keenum moving forward?
He's not a long-term solution. I think Baker could play again this year. The labrum in the non-throwing shoulder, that's kind of a lucky one. So I think really they're just waiting on the bone break to heal, and depending on the severity of that, they might put him on IR 3 weeks and bring him back out there.
All right, sounds good. All right, so for those of you trying to follow along, I'm just on the NFL website going right through the games that they have in order. I went to league schedule. 1 o'clock games consist of Giants and Panthers visiting the Giants this week. There's a lot of question marks on that Giants team. I know they're dealing with injuries. Kenny Galladay's out today. Saquon Barkley is still out. That offensive line was terrible before the injuries. I just don't see how they can overcome this many issues. So I'm going Panthers probably by 6.
I'm going Panthers by 3 here. I think it's a field goal game. Last week kind of humbled me a little bit with these road teams being better on paper, but yet the home team's coming out with some victories. So I'm going to go ahead and say I'm going to give the road team the victory here for exactly the reasons that you said. The Giants just aren't healthy. Galladay not playing. Shepard's not playing. Barkley's out, and the offensive line had question marks anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and give this one to the Panthers. They're a little bit more healthy. And I think they look for a similar rebound game to what the Broncos had in front of them. But this time I think the away team capitalizes.
All right. Yeah. A quote unquote rivalry game next. Jets and Patriots.
Is this the one in New York, or is this the one in
New England?
Foxborough? Oh, it's in Foxborough. Okay, yeah. Patriots by touchdown.
Patriots by 7. Okay, I'm actually going a little bit of a closer game for the same reason that you just said with the Panthers. The Jets aren't a particularly good team. Wilson has looked good at times and then looked really, really, really bad at times. But Bill Belichick is still the coach there in Foxborough, and as such, I believe the Patriots probably get a victory here. But you're saying by 7, I'm saying by 3. It'll be a closer game than a touchdown.
Wilson's too hard to predict, and that's generally the thing with rookie quarterbacks who are unpolished, and everybody knew that coming in. When he came out of BYU, they drafted him because he has the potential to be good. He's got the arm strength for it, but he's a little inconsistent, a little inaccurate at times. So go ahead and I'm going to comfortably say that the Pats win this game by at least a 7-point spread.
Okay. Next one on the docket, Chiefs Titans. The Chiefs are visiting the Titans in this particular game. The Titans surprised me a lot by having that comeback victory over the Bills on Monday night. They hung in there, and I know that it was a really questionable call making Josh Allen try and rush for 1 yard when they had the opportunity to tie the game and go into overtime for the Bills. But still, the Titans did what they needed to do to beat a really good Bills team. The Titans might be coming back a little bit closer to that team that they were last year and the year before. Tannehill has looked a lot better the last couple of weeks. Derrick Henry is
Derrick Henry,
a freak of nature in the backfield. So as popular as the Chiefs may be with Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill and them guys, I'm going Titans on this one.
I'm going to disagree. I'm going to go ahead and give it to the Chiefs. You got to figure at some point they're turning their season around. Andy Reid's too good of a coach to let this team continue to look inconsistent and slide all over the place. And the defense has been, up and down. But I think today they get after it. They stop the run. No Julio Jones, I believe. So he was questionable.
Is that total yardage for Derrick Henry? I'm confused by the 789 yards.
Yeah, we need some context with that, please. Anyway, I just think that they're too good. I can't see them sliding any further than they have been. Even some of their wins have just looked really, really, really suspect. So I'm going to go ahead and say the Chiefs start to get the train back on the tracks with this one. This would be a good victory for them. So go ahead and give me the Chiefs by, I'd say 4.
Yeah, I just don't see it. I think the Titans are going to come out and punch them in the mouth, much like teams have been able to do. Even the wins the Chiefs have gotten this year haven't been like convincing.
Yeah, no, they've looked super off all season. I think this is the game where they right the ship.
Maybe, but I'm still sticking with the Titans, and I got the Titans by 3.
Yeah, it'll be a good game.
Indeed. Next game, Washington visiting Green Bay. I got Green Bay. There were a lot of rumors this week that Washington had potentially locked down a trade for Tua Tagovailoa. It obviously never came to fruition. You and I were talking about it a little bit. I don't think Tua makes that team better.
Yeah,
you and I have talked about this. I've been very honest. I'm not a huge fan of Tua Tagovailoa, and I just don't think Tua makes that team any better. And Heinicke's doing everything he can. They're not a very good team. They're exactly what I thought they'd be. They'll probably end up somewhere around 500 for the season, just over, just under, because obviously they're 17 games. But they're just not a very good team. And the Packers are playing since week 1. The Packers have been playing really good football. I know they had a little bit of a contest last week against the Bears, but Aaron Rodgers does Aaron Rodgers things.
Those divisional games can get a little, funky. So
so I got the Packers by 6 here.
I'm going to go Packers by about a touchdown, maybe even more. I could say 10 points. Washington's defense started to look a little bit better last year, and that was the bread and butter of this team. And Taylor Heinicke is doing everything that he can to win these games. And I agree with what you said, that Tua doesn't necessarily make this team any better. So it would be kind of confusing, especially after they signed Ryan Fitzpatrick and Taylor Heinicke to a multi-year extension in the offseason. So I think they're going to roll with Heinicke going forward and see, where the dust settles with that. As good as, as well-rounded as they look, and, Heinicke's played well at times, defense starting to look better, that they're not going to beat the Packers. They wouldn't beat the Packers in any scenario. I think if both teams were at their best, it would still be, 7 to 10 points. So I'm going to go ahead and say Pack roll here big time.
Yeah. Like you said, like I said, the Washington football team is just not playing very well right now. Falcons coming off a bye week, going into Miami. These are two we just talked about Tua. These are two not good teams playing down in Miami this week. I'm taking the visiting Falcons. Matt Ryan, while the team hasn't looked fantastic, Matt Ryan has not looked bad. And
the Falcons are 3-2, aren't they?
2-3.
2-3.
Yes. And so Ken says Falcons are close in this game. I don't think it's close. I think the Falcons win by somewhere around 7 to 10 points.
Yeah, no, coming off the bye week, they've had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. They're the more well-rested team. And Miami it has nothing to do with how the Falcons look. Miami looks terrible in every aspect of the game of football. They just look awful. So go ahead and give me the Falcons. I'm going to say by 3, though. I'm going to say it's a little bit of a closer game. I don't think the Falcons are good enough to run away with this game like that.
Let's discuss the Falcons for a second. How about how big of a surprise is it that Cordarrelle Patterson is playing the way he is right now?
Dude, this is like the epitome of everything that's gone on in the world like the last year and a half. Like like, everything that happened in 2020, it was like throwing darts at a dartboard, and then you're like, well, what's next? Well, what's next is Cordell Patterson, plays well. Who saw that coming? He's like he's fantasy all-star, man.
Yeah, he really is. People in art, and for those of you who do know, Ryan and I are in several leagues together, and then a couple of leagues without each other. And in most leagues, Cordell Patterson is a starting RB1.
Yeah.
And
or wide receiver one, even, because I think some leagues have him listed as both.
Yeah, but either way, he's probably your best option at flex across the league if you don't have a super flex yet. So just incredible what Cordell Patterson's been doing. He's also in like his 8th season. It's not like he's really young.
Yeah, no, he's been around a while. He started with the Bears, I think.
Bears or Vikings, one of them. But yeah, you're 100% right.
Yeah, he started in the AFC North.
NFC North.
NFC North, thank you.
Sorry, I got you. It's Sunday morning. We're tired. No big deal.
Yep.
Next game is the surprisingly good Cincinnati Bengals visiting the not surprisingly good Baltimore Ravens. I've been critical about Lamar Jackson and how I feel like he's more of a running back than a quarterback. That doesn't really change where I'm sitting. However, that is a really well-rounded football team in Baltimore. And I took the Chargers last week. I don't remember if you took the Chargers last week, but the Chargers are a good football team, and Baltimore made them look silly.
Yeah, I think we both took the Chargers that game, and that was
not a close game. Herbert, probably the worst game of Justin Herbert's career was last week against Baltimore Ravens. Now, having said that, this is a divisional game. Bengals, again, are playing really good football also. I just don't see them going into Baltimore and getting a win. I got the Ravens by 3.
Going into Baltimore?
Yep.
Yeah.
If we're in Cincinnati, I'd feel differently. But
that's kind of where I'm sitting at too. I'm going to go ahead and say Ravens by 7, though. They just pull out a last minute touchdown or whatever the case may be. But I'm going to go ahead and say Ravens by 7. I think that Cincinnati's inability to control the run game on defense is going to cause problems in this game for them. And I don't think Joe Burrow is going to be able to muster up enough offense to bring them back, to go blow for blow with the Ravens. So I'm going to go ahead and give them a touchdown here in this one. But if it were in Cincinnati, I agree. I'd definitely feel different and probably predict it the other way.
Yeah. So also in Baltimore, obviously they got a whole bunch of veteran running backs on the roster and on the practice squad. It looks like Devontae Freeman has kind of separated himself from the pack, and he looks to be the primary starter there with Latavius Murray splitting carries with him.
Well, Mel Murray's out and Bell's active, so.
Well, there you go. So, but yeah, it looks like Devontae Freeman has taken over the starting role there as running back now that he's got a couple of weeks, got the playbook under him. And he didn't look bad last week against the Chargers. Again, that's a good Chargers team. And Devontae Freeman, I think he had like 78 rushing yards and 2 catches for 14 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, something like that.
That's good production out of a running back, when you have a running back, a quarterback too. So just saying.
I have a really bad feeling that the Ravens backfield is going to end up like, what's the other team that runs a serious committee? San Francisco. I have a feeling that, like, from a fantasy aspect, they're going to end up like a San Francisco team, and you can't start any of their running backs on your team, because last week it was Freeman, this week it'll be Bell, Murray will be back the next week. It'll just be a disaster.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for fantasy owners, but it's a good little scheme fit. If you're the Ravens, pick the running back that goes good against certain defenses and stuff. That's not a bad way to play.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Going into the 4:00 games, starting with all right. So this game has a little bit of like rivalry implications simply because of the trade in the offseason. You got the Lions going into LA to play the Rams. Obviously, we've discussed it. Matt Stafford for Jared Goff and a whole bunch of picks.
2 first rounds and I think a third or something like that.
Yeah, so Goff playing for the 0-6 Lions right now, and
should have won that Super Bowl, big man.
Yeah. I mean, and we talked about this last week. Worst Super Bowl I've ever seen.
Yeah, in my life.
Yeah, seriously. But anyway, so the 0-6 Lions visiting the 5-1 Los Angeles Rams. The Rams' only loss coming to the only undefeated team in football, the Cardinals. I don't think this is a close game. Goff may want to go in there and throw the ball around, but he doesn't have enough weapons. The Lions aren't a good team. I'm predicting the Rams by 10.
Outside of Hawkinson and Swift, I don't think he has any weapons. Tyrell Williams is still on IR, but he was considered the number one. If he's considered your number one, you got some serious lack of depth at wide receiver. I know they want to get Amon-Ra St. Brown involved more, but yeah, I could see this being 2 touchdowns, maybe even more. Depends on how serious the Rams take this game, is really all it comes down to. I think McVay will have his boys ready, though. So
I'm pretty sure the spread on this game isn't as high as the Bills-Texans was. Let me check it really quick. But I think it's
only like 10.5.
Yeah, 10.5 is what I think it is. I can check it really fast because, we have these things, you and I.
Yeah, no.
I apologize. This is a 16.5 point spread.
Really?
16.5, yeah.
I don't remember seeing that. I mean, it all varies based on like which sports book the sites use and whatnot. Yeah. But I mean, regardless, it's going to be the Rams. It should be the Rams. This is not on my upset alert. This is not something that, maybe if they're tied going into the fourth quarter, I'll turn the game on, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, this is going to be Rams big. They're just better in every aspect of the game, from coaching to quarterback play to, wide receivers. Everything about the Rams is better.
Yes. Speaking of the wide receiver position, you mentioned how the Lions have 0 depth at wide receiver. If Tyrell Williams is your one, complete contrast to what the Rams are running out there right now. You got Cooper Kupp, you got Robert Woods, you've got Van Jefferson, you've got Deshaun Jackson. Like, they're just very deep at wide receiver right now for the Rams. Yeah. And that can only do good things for Matt Stafford.
And Darrell Henderson's playing very well right now too, out of the backfield. So, the Rams, pick your poison. You want to get beat on the ground. You want to get beat by Kupp. You want to get beat by Woods. You want to get beat by Higbee, who hasn't really made much of an impact yet, but Stafford does love his tight ends, so it's coming.
Yeah, so we just said 16.5. Ken decided to say that the Rams cover. You and I are similar, but I think it'll be closer to like a 10 to 13 point game.
Yeah, I don't think the Rams cover the spread. That's a large spread.
The team that you and I love talking about, Philadelphia Eagles visiting the Las Vegas Raiders. So this is on my upset alert. I don't typically go in and say that the Eagles are going to go to an away game and they're going to win, but I got news for you. The Eagles have 2 wins this season and neither of them are at home. Vegas is kind of in shambles. I know they came out and they played well last week to beat the Broncos. They're 4-2. But I do have the Eagles going into Las Vegas today and winning a very close game. I'm talking like last drive, getting it done, 3-point victory in Las Vegas.
So everything in the Vegas, side of the house seems to be in shambles. They just fired, John Gruden stepped down. I know they won last week still. That, long term, you're coming in with a new playbook, or not necessarily new playbook, but, you have new leadership. A lot of questions going around in that locker room. And on top of that, I don't think Darren Waller's playing either. I think he's out. It sounds like he's a game time decision leaning toward out. So that's a positive because that's a big weapon for them. However, the Eagles do fail to stop the ground game like pretty bad. That wide 9 gets them gashed game after game. So if they can close it up and stop the run here, I like the Eagles. I think that they could go on the road and win this game, and that's not an unrealistic possibility. But they gotta close up the run game. So I'm going to go ahead and say that they do. I actually do like that 24-21 prediction. I think that's probably pretty accurate. I'll go ahead and say the Eagles get it done by 3.
All right.
But if they don't stop the run, this game gets out of hand very fast.
I don't disagree. Speaking of not stopping, you want to talk about the Eagles for a little bit, or you want to just keep going predictions?
Let's keep going predictions. We'll come back to the boys in a second.
All right. Sounds good. 4:25 game. No, this isn't it. 4:25 game. I don't expect this one to be close. The spread is 18.5 points. Texans visiting the Cardinals. This is not one of those games where the 1-5 Texans are going to go in and knock off an undefeated team. It's just not going to happen. This will not be the week that the Cardinals get their loss. And I would not be surprised if it's a 24-31 point.
Damn. What's this, college? Jeez.
Yeah, this is not going to be a close game. Truthfully, I wouldn't be surprised if the starters come out and don't even come out of the fourth quarter for the Cardinals. That's how much of a blowaway I think this is going to be. I got the Cardinals by 3.5 touchdowns.
I think this is Davis Mills' last start from what it sounds like. I think Tyrod Taylor's going to be ready to come off IR next week and actually play. So, however, with him starting at quarterback, yeah, I 14, 17 point spread, like that's kind of where I'm leaning, somewhere in that neighborhood. Um, it's hard to predict these games with the point spreads because of garbage time. That's the hardest thing about these games is predicting garbage time. Like we all assume that there's going to be garbage time, but are the Cardinals going to let the Texans kind of roll all over their backups and score some points and close the spread, or are they not? So I'm going to go ahead and say 14-17, somewhere in that range, but Cards up easy.
Okay. America's game of the week, which some weeks it confuses me why these are the games of the week. But we got the Bears visiting the Buccaneers. The Bears defense has been playing well. The Bears are 3-3, but the Bears defense has been playing pretty well. Justin Fields has started to look more composed and like an NFL quarterback and back there. But
really only had a couple bad passes last week. One was intercepted. One should have been intercepted. But outside of that, he just managed the game very well. And with Allen Robinson being a no-show every single day, and with David Montgomery being on IR, that's all you can do. So he's done okay, I guess. We'll have to see. He's got to read the defenses a little bit better, especially on his deep passes down the middle of the field. That's where he's had his trouble.
Yeah, I got the Buccaneers here. I don't think it's a blowaway game. It's so confusing with the Buccaneers. Like last week on Thursday night, they were supposed to blow the Eagles out. There was a 7.5 point spread. And at the end of the game, they let the Eagles get close. I think it's a similar situation with the Bears this week. So the spread, I think, is 6.5 points, Buccaneers, Bears. And I got the Bucs probably not covering the spread.
I got the Bucs winning by 10. I don't think the Bears can roll with them at all. And it's going to be in Tampa, if I'm not mistaken. I don't have the schedule open for yet.
It is in Tampa.
Go ahead and give me the Bucs by 10. The run defense is unbelievable, so they're going to force the rookie Fields to have to drop back and throw the ball probably 35 times this game. And like I said, he's played all right, but he's not ready for that kind of game yet. And I think the Bucs win this one pretty handily. So I'm going to go ahead and say somewhere between 10 and 14 points. Also, Tim, I do hope Allen Robinson breaks out today. That would be great.
Yeah, for you. Sunday Night Football, you got Carson Wentz and the Colts. Parrish Campbell, I think they said is possibly out for the remainder of the season with that foot injury. But
that guy's so much talent. It's such a shame that he can't ever stay healthy. It's his third year, and it's his third, I think, season-ending injury.
Yeah. T.Y. Hilton is back from the IR.
T.Y. Hilton's out, I think.
Is he?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's out. He's back from the IR. He played last week, and I think he got hurt again. I think he's out tonight.
Well, all right then. Lack of weapons for Carson Wentz visiting the San Francisco 49ers. The Niners, after winning the first 2 games of the season, have looked slightly lost the last 3 games, 2 of which Justin Fields has had to start. They do get Jimmy Garoppolo back. You and I aren't super high on Garoppolo.
You mean Trey Lance? You said Justin Fields.
I'm sorry. Yeah, Trey Lance. I do mean Trey Lance. You and I aren't super high on Garoppolo, but he is a good game manager. We've mentioned that several times. But as you already pointed out, they got that running back by committee down there or over there in San Francisco. And this is an intriguing game for me because neither team is like jumping off the page for me that they want to win the game. I know that sounds weird, like teams want to win, but I think I'm going to take the home team here by 3. But I would not be surprised in any way, shape, or form if Carson Wentz goes in there and gets a W.
I'm going to go ahead and take San Francisco, and I think they roll pretty good too. I think they control the game. I don't think, they gash them on the ground, but I think they beat them up enough that the time of possession leans heavily in their favor. And like you pointed out already, the Colts are lacking some serious weapons. No T.Y. Hilton, no Parris Campbell. So it's going to be the Michael Pittman show. And I like San Francisco's defense enough to keep the reins on that one. So go ahead and give me San Francisco here by, I'd say, 6 points, somewhere in that neighborhood. But this is on my upset alert. I could see it swinging the other way. It depends on how Garoppolo looks. Trey Lance made one start, and then they had the bye, and Trey Lance, looked like a rookie. So the weapons are there. Deebo Samuel's had a great year. Brandon Ayuk's been a no-show. George Kittle's still on IR. So both teams are kind of banged up and dealing with players that are just underperforming at the time. But this is going to be battle of the ground games, and I think San Francisco goes ahead and takes this one.
Okay. Monday Night Football. Saints visiting the Seahawks. Seahawks still without Russell Wilson. And truthfully, even if Wilson's on it's so hard to predict what the Saints are going to do because Jameis Winston is so hit or miss. He's so hot and cold. But with Russell Wilson out, I don't hold almost any regards for the Seahawks in most games. So I've got the Saints, and even in Seattle, I see the Saints winning by more than a touchdown.
I see them winning by about a touchdown. Same reason you just said. No Russell Wilson means Seahawks are pretty much in no competition here. Geno Smith has to show me something before we go ahead and, say that they can actually win games.
Correct. I'm with you there. So that's pretty much our predictions for the week ahead. Nothing special there. We had a nice little quick show here. I do want to discuss the Eagles a little bit, as you know, we're homers. So it was reported earlier in the week that there was some animosity between Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts. And I feel like I don't know if every other team in the area or in their own hometown does this, but every season it seems like there's some sort of animosity between the players and coaches in our organization, in the Philadelphia organization. I wondered how much truth you put into the Sirianni Jalen Hurts quote unquote feud, because I don't think there necessarily is a feud going on between Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni.
I think the only animosity in regards to Jalen Hurts in this organization is Jalen Hurts and his deep ball. I think that's the only animosity that's really going on there, because we've talked about it time and time again. We can discuss Jalen Hurts' lack of talent all day long, but Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts get along just fine. I don't see any kind of issue in this organization. I don't see any kind of feud, as you pointed out. I think this is just a bogus report, and I think that Philadelphia beat writers and just anybody who covers the Eagles has a really hard time just grasping that this team is just bad. You can still gel together and be bad. That just comes down to, we don't have the talent, we don't have the experience. We have a young wide receiver core, we have a young quarterback, we have running backs that don't get utilized. We have a first-year head coach who's never been a head coach before. So there's a lot of unpredictable pieces in place here, and it results in the Eagles just not being a good team. And that's all it is to it. I don't think anybody's feuding. It doesn't look like that there's any animosity in the body languages or anything that's said in the interviews. So I don't know where this report came from, but I think it's 100% bogus. There's no way. I'm not buying it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we're on the same page with that one.
Yeah.
So I popped it up on the screen here. Ken asked if the Birds defense blitzes for a change, and the very short and easy answer of that is no, because for some reason Gannon just doesn't want to blitz. Also, we have a pretty, even with Brandon Graham out, we don't have a weak front four. They have shown at times they're able to get pressure. Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargraves played really good side by side. So on some occasions, I don't think there's a necessity to blitz. The Raiders' offensive line is pretty good, though. So while I believe that the defense should blitz, I still don't believe they will.
We don't have any big-time blitzers on this team, though. If you think about it, a lot of our best linebackers are, run tackling linebackers. Nobody thinks of Alex Singleton as a blitzing linebacker. Nobody thinks of Rodney McLeod or Anthony Harris, or we don't have any blitzing cornerbacks that can come in. Back in the day, we used to have that. We used to just stack the box with Brian Dawkins, or we'd bring in Dhani Jones on the outside. We don't have any true pass rushing linebackers outside, or defensive backs. So it's kind of hard to blitz in that aspect, because a lot of your guys are coverage, based players.
Yeah, just about. And we've talked week in and week out about it, putting your players in a position to be successful. And if you don't have players who are successful at blitzing, you can't really put them in position.
Yeah. So I guess that's the one thing they're doing right by, not putting them in position. But I guess we'll never know if they're true blitzers or not, because they don't really do it. So
correct. So I put Tim's comment up here. I'm with you 100%. I know that's my catchphrase at this point in time, but I'm with you. the offense, and we've already talked about Jalen Hurts' inadequacies on the show several times, and we'll continue to do it as the show continues while we keep doing it because
as long as Jalen Hurts is the starting quarterback and is underperforming, we will talk about how he is underperforming.
But you're entirely correct. So the defense does come out the first couple series of most games, not so much against the Bucs the other night. I'm getting some feedback on you there, buddy.
On me?
Yeah, it's all right. Don't worry about it. But yeah, so the defense has looked really good at times, and then they're on the field for 35, 45 minutes a game, and it's no wonder at the end of the game why these big rushing gashes happens because they're tired. Like as you pointed out, they're just exhausted from being on the field all day long, and it's not easy to have to cover a receiver for 35, 45 minutes a game. It's not easy to be in the trenches and fight them guys for 35, 45 minutes a game. The advantage is always going to go to the offense when two people have been on the field for the same amount of time because the offense knows what the play is. So it's pretty cut and dry that if the offense and Jalen Hurts can't put together some, I'm not even asking for touchdown drive. I mean, I am asking for touchdown drives, but you got to do more than 3 and out. You got to be on the field for 4 or 5 minutes at a time. Even if you punt the ball away, give your defense a chance to catch their breath before they run back out on the field and try and cover you.
Well, you just said the magic word there, and that's run. And what kills the clock? Running the ball. Because with Jalen Hurts, inaccuracy sometimes you're stopping the clock. So your defense is sitting on the sidelines, and you throw 3 straight incompletions, and all you did was burn 15 seconds off the clock. And it's like, oh, come on. Whereas one run play, you automatically burn 35, 40 seconds off the clock. You do that 3 times, even if you go 3 and out running the ball 3 times, you killed 2 minutes and gave your defense some time to breathe, but they just don't run the ball enough. And that's ultimately the whole failure of this team is that they don't run the ball enough, and they have the running backs to do it. I don't know why they don't run the ball enough. It'll forever be a mystery. And I guess it'll continue to be a mystery because in Sirianni's post-game presser, he said he wants it to be 75% pass. So I guess we'll continue to see a team that, gets their defense tired because of the offense's inability to have, successful play calling.
So I don't know how if you're Nick Sirianni, you're looking at Jalen Hurts and you think he should be throwing the ball 35 times the game. It's mind-boggling to me. Is he not watching the same game that we're watching? Is he not going through the film room and seeing the underthrown and the overthrown footballs, the indecisive playmaking, the decision-making that's just not consistent? Is he watching the same stuff that we're watching? It just amazes me that he wants Jalen Hurts to throw the ball 35 to 40 times a game when that's not the kind of quarterback Jalen Hurts is.
He never was that kind of quarterback. He's always had a good running back with him, even when he was in college. The Bears understand that despite their best running back being out and a very good running back at that they still gave the ball to Damian Williams 20 plus times a game because they don't want Justin Fields throwing the ball. And Justin Fields was a highly sought after prospect with a good arm and a 1st-round pick. And, he's the future of the Bears, and they still won't put him in position to throw the ball 35 times in a game. They might have to this game, but that's because of the opponent, not because of the game plan. Whereas with the Eagles, it's all about game planning, to throw the ball 35 times, 40 times with Hurts. The only time that Hurts should be throwing the ball 35 times a game is if they're just on the field that much. Like week 1, they ran the ball 31 times through 35. That should be the only time that they do it.
And that's the ratio that you need. That's
he's going to be as close to 50-50 with this team as possible.
Yeah, they were successful in that game where they ran it for 30 times and threw it for 30 times. And since then, they haven't even attempted to come close to mimicking those numbers. And, I mean, the record shows it. The statistics show it. The angry fan base shows it. The illegitimate rumors about animosity in the locker room show it. And it comes down to play calling. So one of the other things in Philly that's going on right now is people think that Nick Sirianni should give up play calling. What are your thoughts on that before I go into mine?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, to make that decision. I understand that especially a first-year head coach, you want to make the best impression you can, and you come into the season feeling the way to do that is to call the plays on offense, especially coming from a system down there in Indianapolis or over there in Indianapolis, where Frank Reich was so successful in Philadelphia and very successful in Indianapolis calling that kind of offense. So when you come from that and, that's all you hear in the offseason is, oh, he came from Frank Reich. We're gonna be just fine. And there's a lot of added pressure, on Nick Sirianni for exactly that. So, he's doing what he feels is best to put himself and the team in the best position to be successful. And that's just not it. So I do believe that he should wholeheartedly give up play calling as soon as possible and at least, show something else. Show somebody else calling the plays or scale back his play calling. Let God, who's our offensive coordinator? The quarterback coach from what's his name? Do you know?
The fact that we don't know is part of the problem.
Yeah. I can't even think of our offense.
And it's that simple. It's
the first year. It's first year. Yeah.
Yeah. First year offensive coordinator.
Tim. What's the dude's name?
But while Tim,
I can't remember his name right now.
That's the problem.
I'm going to know his name.
There were all when Andy was the coach here, you knew who the offensive coordinators were. When Chip Kelly was here, you knew who the offensive coordinator was. Doug Peterson's here, you know who the offensive coordinator is.
Honestly, I'd rather take the shot on a first year offensive coordinator because as a head coach, I can see how he calls his plays and then be like, okay, he's not going to fit for me.
Okay, Schlebo, how about you tell us? Oh, he's a Cowboys fan, right?
No, he's a Raiders fan.
Okay. Shane Steichen.
Yeah, that's who it was. I couldn't. I was like, man, something with an S. And then our quarterback coach is the offensive coordinator from Florida. But yeah, it's I don't get it. Like you would think that as a first year head coach who wants to keep his job past this season, he would probably do whatever he thought was necessary to help the team be successful, and not at this point. It's all about swallowing pride, and he's got to give it up.
And that's where I was going with it. Is at this point, I think he realizes that he come out and said it flat out on Monday in his conference that he doesn't know what the identity of the offense is. Well, that comes down to you. Like, yeah, you can complain about Jalen Hurts not making plays, and I get that. And I said this in previous shows where you call a play and then he doesn't do it or doesn't execute perfectly, and then it's a bad play call because Jalen Hurts does something wrong. And I get that. If he's successful, it looks like a good play call, but you're not exactly putting him in a position to be successful. You're not running the football. You're doing way too many quick screens. You're not realizing that corners are playing right up on your young wide receivers because none of them have the ability to create space right off the line. And you're not doing anything as an offensive minded coach to put those, here it is again, players in a position to be successful. So I agree with you. I think he needs to give up play calling, just let somebody else with some other eyes see something, and hopefully that can create space for the receivers and running back.
Yeah, it's a mystery, and he'll never give up play calling. We know that most coaches like that are very prideful, and it just won't happen. He'll go down with the ship. But what Tim pointed this out already. Bring this comment up, his last one. Do you believe it?
No. So I'm not a fan of firing coaches after one season. I've never been a fan of firing coaches after one season, because it's really hard to come in. And, first of all, this team is super young everywhere. The offense is extremely young. The defense is getting younger. The coaching staff is super young. I can touch on this comment in a few minutes.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah. Everything is young. So especially in this organization right now with what the team can be in the future, even if Jalen Hurts isn't the answer, you have the opportunity with what's looking like a handful of early first round picks right this second. You're in a position, if Jalen Hurts isn't the answer, to find the answer in the next draft. And as a result, you want to give the coach at least a full season and more to establish his offense, especially as a first-year coach, figure out what he does well and doesn't do well, figure out what his players do well and don't do well. I've never been a fan of firing a coach after one season, especially in the NFL.
Yeah, I'm with you. I know your initial answer to that question was no, you don't believe it, but yeah. I do believe it. I think for the exact reasons you just said, I don't think that there's any way he loses his job after one full season. there's too many variables there, and one of them is the quarterback play. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, and I want to ask you this as a follow-up question. Do you think with the right quarterback that could at least mask some of the faults that Jalen Hurts has? You know, he throws a little bit better of a deep ball, a little bit more accurate on the short throws. Do you think he could at least mask some of the flaws that Sirianni has?
Yeah, and it goes back to what I said before. So the overthrown balls in the end zone that Hurts has had, he's had like 4 or 5, a handful of them to Hurts, 2 to the receivers. Those plays are executed. It looks like a completely different offense. Jalen Reagor doesn't run out of bounds in San Francisco or against San Francisco. Completely different look. They score after the 97 or 96 yard Kes Watkins. They don't try that. They don't try that crappy Philly play, and Jalen Hurts executes and gets in the end zone. It's a completely different look for this offense. We're having a completely different conversation. But as it stands, Sirianni is a problem with the play calling, and Hurts, as we've discussed many times, and we'll discuss many more, has not executed, and as a result, the play calling has looked worse, and that's my point.
Yeah, I think the play calling has been bad, and it's the start of all the Eagles' issues as I touched on earlier. But I feel like he's not getting much help either. So it's a double-edged sword for the most part. And I want to go back to Ken and Tim have mentioned already several coaches that are successful and don't call plays. Andy Reid only partially gave up play calling. He was still calling his 2-minute drills and his final drives, and he never fully ever gave up play calling to Marty Mornhinweg. I'm assuming that's who he's talking about.
Yeah. Also, the only season that Andy Reid did partially give up some of his play calling was after the season after his son had passed away. So he obviously wasn't right in his head and realized that he wasn't 100% committed to the play calling of every single game. So he gave away play calling for those scenarios. But as you already mentioned, during the 2-minute drills, he took it back. Crunch time, he took all the play calling back. But he's calling plays in Kansas City.
Yeah,
he has called plays since he's been in Kansas City. That has not changed. I know he let Doug Peterson call like a half one year, half of a game one year. Just like Frank Reich last year only let Nick Sirianni call a half of one game. It's really common for head coaches to call plays. Now, Tim mentioned bring up the Pats coach, Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick is not an offensive-minded coach. Bill Belichick is an extremely genius defensive-minded coach. So, of course, he wouldn't be calling offensive plays. He's had the same offensive coordinator
for some time now.
Exactly. Josh McDaniel has been in New England for the last 14 years, if I'm not mistaken, and he's been calling plays the entire time. So it's really different. If you're an offensive-minded coach, you want to call plays. There's zero parts of me that think Bill Belichick is not calling the defensive plays on the sideline for New England. He's a defensive-minded coach. That's what he does. So while you're saying he didn't call any of those plays, he did call plays. He just called plays for the side of the ball that he's good at. It's the same but different. And I get it. You think that Sirianni should give up play calling, and I think that Sirianni should give up play calling. But for the most part, head coaches call their own plays, and it's the way the NFL has formed now. Offensive coordinators are there as like advisors.
Yeah, and I know Andy Reid still has his hands in the pot in the play calls too. I'm not 100% sure whether it's him or Eric Bieniemy that calls plays in Kansas City, so I can't speak to that. But Andy Reid's never going to 100% give up his play calling. Just his offensive mindedness, his ability, especially with quarterbacks, to turn good ones into great ones and half decent ones into good ones. He just elevates the
Donovan McNabb.
Yeah, Donovan McNabb. Eddie Detmer.
Eddie Detmer, yeah.
Ty Orcoy. Yeah, so I'm not 100% sure what the split on play calling is over there, but I'd bet a lot of money that Andy Reid it doesn't have 0% play calling over there. That'd be ridiculous to me.
True.
So, yeah, and as far as the Belichick thing goes, everybody knows that Bill Belichick's a defensive-minded coach. So I was actually talking about that with somebody the other day. I don't know if these defensive-minded coaches like Ron Rivera or Bill Belichick or actually call their own defensive plays. I don't think that it's not talked about a lot, so it's not something that anybody ever thinks about, but I'd imagine they do.
It's never under scrutiny like the offense is. That's why. So you never go you never leave a game after the defense got scorched and you're like, man, what was the play calling there? You always talk about execution.
Yeah.
It's different in the offensive side of the football.
Yeah.
While we can discuss execution, you can't ignore the fact that the play calling has been a little bit atrocious. And it's just the spotlight. People want to see offense. So when your offense isn't performing, that's what it looks like.
Hit the nail on the head.
That's it for me, man. If you want to talk about anything else?
No, dude. You want to touch up on the MLB playoffs real quick?
Yeah. So last night the Braves clinch the NL pennant. They're going to the World Series. Good for the Bravos. They take out the Dodgers. And the Astros in 6 games take care of the Boston Red Sox on some questionable calls the other night. But that's for another show. So yeah, we got the World Series starting here this week. It's going to be the Atlanta Braves versus the Houston Astros.
And everybody's rooting for the Braves.
Everybody's rooting for the Braves.
Yeah,
we're Phillies fans, and I've said it before. I have nothing against the Braves. It's unfortunate that they're in the same division as the Phillies because we're Phillies fans. But when I look at division rivals, I think the Mets, I think the Nationals. I don't really consider the Braves. I mean, they are a division rival, but I don't look at them as a division rival like that. It's unfortunate that they're as good as they are in our division, and we got to play them. What is it, 17 times a season?
19.
19 times a season. But so yeah, go Braves. Good for y'all. And not to mention, you guys did this without Max Fried and Ronald Acuna Jr.
Fried's there. Max Fried's there. He just started game 5.
Did he? That's my mistake.
Game 4.
He was injured for a lot of the season, though, wasn't he?
No, he was there for most of the season. He sucked in the beginning of the year, just like most of the team did. Freeman came out of the gates flat. Fried was not good to start the season, but Soroka's not there. That's the one you're thinking of.
Soroka, yeah, I'm sorry, it's Soroka. But also Ronald Acuna Jr. Yeah. They seem to have gotten better after Acuna went out, which is yeah. Ken, we'll talk about this on a Philly show. We'll get there.
Yeah, that's not looking very likely anymore. That's not
definitely.
I didn't predict when I was making those heavy predictions and trying to sway that. I didn't predict the Braves going all the way to the World Series. So
they have a shot to win too. I think on paper they're the better team than the Astros.
Well, on paper, I don't think they're better than anybody. They just outplayed everyone. Like Eddie Rosario went absolutely crazy in the CS. Like that, he had the best CS I think anybody's ever seen. He batted over 500. He tied the MLB playoff record for most hits in a series, and that series only went 6 games.
6 games, yeah.
Yeah. So they missed a whole game. And he had 14 hits. That's nuts. That's crazy.
That's good for him and good for the Braves.
Yeah, no, but I don't think the Braves at all are on paper better than the Astros. But I think it's kind of like a Cinderella story because everybody from the NL East was discounted no matter who won it. And they were looked at as like, oh, well, they got in because they played a bit like in the bad NL East. They just took down the big bad Dodgers in 6 games. So without their number one pitcher, without their number one player. So, this is shaping up to be a Cinderella story. And the Braves have my support. Braves have had my support for years. I was always a fan of Smoltz, Glavine, Maddox. So
Chipper Jones.
Yeah, Chipper. Andrew Jones I was a big fan of growing up. So they've had some good players. I've always kind of admired the Braves. I'll always be a Phillies fan, but I don't hate the Braves nearly as much as I hate the Mets. I can't stand them.
Correct. Yeah, I don't like the Mets either. All right, so that's about it. That's all we got here today. Thanks for joining us, listening to our predictions. Hopefully, if you guys are betting people and you listen to us, you win some money. Who knows?
Yeah, and you can forward some to us if you we're on the fence about one and you took our prediction and it was right.
I like the way that sounds. Let's go with that.
Yeah, we'll gladly accept donation.
So we will see you hopefully next Saturday night. We got a little caught up this week, but maybe next Saturday night we'll see you guys again. Thanks, and sure. Have a good day.
You too.
Go Eagles.